Boeing Max still unsafe, FAA and U.S. Secretary of Transportation knows. The sea rash of the Ethiopian Airlines flight is not just an Ethiopian tragedy, but also an Indonesian nightmare and an American issue and disaster even more. Relatives of families of the Max crash in Ethiopia were calling for Boeing's chief executive Dave Calhoun, his predecessor Dennis Muhlenberg and other current and former employees to be deposed under the consolidated lawsuits that have been filed in federal district court in Chicago. Robert A. Clifford, founder and senior partner of Clifford Law Offices and lead counsel of the litigation representing 72 families, reports that a trial date is soon to be set for 2022 in the matter before U.S. District Court Judge Jorge Alonso in Chicago. In the meantime, discovery continues with millions of pages of documents being reviewed and depositions of many parties being taken, including top Boeing executives. Families have been insisting on full recertification, examining all systems of the latest 737 that have not been recertified for more than 50 years and that has undergone numerous changes including placing the newly sized engines further forward on the wings. Internal U.S. FAA documents reportedly show that other MAX 8 systems fail to comply with modern safety standards. The family's fight for information is really on behalf of the public in an effort to make the flying safer for everyone because it is too late for their loved ones, Clifford said. This is one of the most selfless acts I have ever seen in my career as an aviation attorney. They are taking their grief and trying to do something constructive so that their loved ones' deaths will not be in vain. Although the route they choose is very public, they have put their private suffering aside to try to ensure that this does not happen to anyone else. The first Boeing Max 8 plane crashed into the Java Sea about 9 minutes after taking off from Indonesia on October 29, 2018, killing all 189 aboard. The plane was not grounded worldwide until 157 more lives were lost when a second 737 MAX 8 crashed about 6 minutes after takeoff from Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, headed for Kenya. U.S. Secretary Pete Buttigieg met today with the family of Samia Rose Stumo who died in the Boeing 737 MAX 8 crash in Ethiopia. This was Secretary Buttigieg's first in-person meeting since his confirmation. Today marks the 2-year anniversary since the plane went down killing all 157 on board. For nearly an hour, the Stumo family told Buttigieg and a staff person at a socially distanced meeting that the MAX aircraft still is unsafe as verified by engineers inside the Federal Aviation Administration FAA, as well as by Boeing engineers. It still has several critical systems with single points of failure and other systems that don't comply with modern safety rules. They explained to Buttigieg that FAA engineers have revealed that FAA managers have exerted undue influence in favor of industry. Specifically, Michael Stumo, father of Samia, Nadia Milaron her mother, and Tor Stumo her brother, told Buttigieg that at least 4 FAA managers must be replaced: FAA Administrator Steve Dixon, FAA Aircraft Certification Service Executive Director Earl Lawrence, FAA Policy and Innovation Division Director of Aircraft Certification Service Michael Romanovsky, and FAA Associate Administrator for Aviation Safety Ali Barami. The FAA is the U.S. agency that certifies all aircraft for flying. Secretary Buttigieg was very receptive and gave us more time than promised, Michael Stumo said following the meeting. He provided us with answers to questions about the plane itself and what the FAA knew between the crashes. He was very concerned about the assertions that management was an impediment to safety. Secretary Buttigieg said he was dedicated to getting us answers. Passengers on the plane were from 35 countries. Chris and Clarisse Moore of Toronto, Canada, lost their 24-year-old daughter Danielle on the plane. They commemorated the day by creating a greater public awareness of the tragedy, standing in front of the U.S. consulate in Toronto at 360 University Avenue, at 10 a.m. EST. They held signs reading, 346 dead, no one held accountable. Earlier in the month, the Moores met with Canadian transport officials to discuss the continuing problems surrounding the MAX that has been ungrounded in Canada. A petition has been created to ban the unsafe Boeing 737 MAX plane in Canada. We are very hopeful that he sees that in order to make his term as Secretary successful, it is in his interest to substantially improve the FAA and its management and culture, Stumo said. It was a very fruitful and candid conversation. We hope he is taking the information regarding the latent defects in the plane seriously as well as the management failures at the FAA so that there is no third crash. Only a new leadership can restore trust in the FAA,